Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. This is actually going to be a video response to MeanMr Mayo. Actually, a response slash kind of tale on a video that he just did. Um, I think he entitled it Extreme Collecting. And basically, what he was kind of talking about in the video, he's not showing any music or anything, he was just kind of sharing some thoughts. But it was in regards to a documentary that he watched, and one that I think is an absolute fabulous documentary with Alan Zegwig, I believe, Zweig. He made a documentary entitled Vinyl, and I think he made it back in the late 90s or early 2000s, something like that. But it's a really, really good documentary, and I guess MeanMr Mayo, I don't know if he recently watched it or watched it a while ago, and he just kind of shared some of his thoughts on it. And again, I'm just kind of jumping on board and piggybacking on some of the things that he was talking about. I left a message in his on his video actually telling him that I've watched that documentary probably 15 to 20 plus times. I can't even count the number of times I've just gone back to it and watched bits and pieces because it is truly one of the best documentaries about vinyl I think that I've ever seen, which is really kind of amazing because it's not like some wealthy guy who makes a bunch of films for a living and had a budget and all this kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, I think it's safe to say he was a guy that was kind of just struggling with the day to day of living. And he just picked up his camcorder and went out and started talking to people and made this incredible documentary. And unlike most documentaries, it's not so much about like the resurgence of vinyl and why it's so cool and all of that. He really kind of went to the darker side, if you will, and was talking and interviewing. Well, here's a good way to put it: 85%, 90% maybe of the people that he interviewed or talked to in this particular documentary would be people that all of us wacky music collectors in the VC would look at and go, them dudes got issues. I mean, it really was kind of that extreme dark side of obsessive collecting and all of that kind of stuff. But again, it was a great, great documentary. So I highly recommend checking it out and then doing a response to MeanMr Mayo's kind of question, not as a thread, but just kind of the questions and thoughts that he put out there. So I just want to kind of jump in and put my 2 cents in because, like I said, it really was a great video, and I'm glad that MeanMr Mayo kind of brought it up. But there was a bunch of different aspects that you could talk about, and a couple of the things I want to talk about that MeanMr Mayo touched on was number one about the way that people tend to view vinyl collectors. Because again, these guys in the documentary were extreme, but I'm just talking about even like us average everyday VC, type of people, the way people tend to view us. And one thing that I have kind of felt is that vinyl collecting, for whatever strange reason, has kind of become like the redheaded stepchild or the Cinderella of the world of collecting. And we sometimes get viewed and treated in a way that doesn't really make sense when you compare it to other types of collecting. And I mean, I'll kind of maybe share why I think that in a minute. But what I mean by that is, you know, when you collect vinyl, one of the things that I've seen in tons of my videos and comments, and not negative, sometimes people just kind of talking, some negative, but mostly just kind of talking. It's why do you have all those records? You could just, I have my entire collection on my phone, and you could just have all MP3s and put it on your computer, and you're only buying the vinyl because you want to be cool or you think it's hip, or and actually using some of those words too, which is kind of weird. Just and just kind of going on and on like that. And one of the first things that I tend to think when that's said, and oftentimes I would throw this back at him is, you know, if I were someone that collected Picassos, if I was in a position to do that, now outside of maybe how much they cost, if I had 40 Picassos on my wall in an art collection that I had, how many of those same people would come to me and say, what's the point of ever owning a Picasso painting? Why couldn't you take all 40 of those prints, scan them, put them in your computer? You can look at them anytime you want. And that way you wouldn't have to have all this space taken up on the wall. You wouldn't have to take them and have them framed. You wouldn't have to have an insurance policy out on all of these. You just put the images in your computer, download them offline. You wouldn't even have to buy the Picasso in the first place, and you can look at them anytime you want. But most people would understand someone having a physical art collection. Or if maybe you collect baseball cards, maybe your dad left you a bunch of baseball cards. You know, most people again wouldn't say, "Why do you have that 55 Mickey Mantle in that plastic sleeve and all these things stored away with all these boxes and everything else?" You could just scan each one of your baseball cards, put them in a computer, look at them anytime you want, and get rid of all this stuff. You don't need these boxes and boxes of cards and protective sleeves and all this other stuff for your baseball cards. Most people would understand someone keeping uh, Willie Mays rookie card or whatever else. They wouldn't tell you to scan that and get rid of the card. But with vinyl collecting, that's what they tell us to do. Stamp collectors, let's use that as an example, just pulling out all kinds of whatever come off the top of my head. Why do you have all these stamps? Why do you have this rare stamp in a little glass case and blah, blah, blah? You could scan all of these, put them in your computer, look at them whenever you want, get rid of the stamps. Again, most people wouldn't say that. But when it comes to vinyl records and music, that's what they'll tell us. Or even taking it a step further, you know, I've gotten a lot of comments before when I've talked about sealed records. You know, I have over 100 records in my collection that are sealed. My entire Nirvana collection is sealed. And the response that you get, what's the point of buying a record and keeping it sealed? You're not listening to the music, you're not using it. What's the point of buying it? What's the point of having it? Well, again, why would you say that to only a vinyl collector? Why don't you go to the person that collects baseball memorabilia and ask them, wait a minute, you have this bat on the wall? I don't care who signed it. I don't care which. What's the point of having a baseball bat if you're not out hitting baseballs with it? That's what it's made for. Most people wouldn't say that. You have this basketball or football in a glass case sitting up on your shelf. What's the point of having a basketball in a glass case? You're supposed to be dribbling and shooting with it. What's the point of having that rare stamp in a glass case or frame? Stamps are supposed to be put on letters and be mailed. If you're not going to mail anything, why do you have the stamp? What's the point? Most people wouldn't say that. But you show them a sealed record, what's the point? Why? Well, for the exact same reason that guy is not mailing off that stamp. It's the exact same thing. So again, I think on that side of where a lot of vinyl collectors catch a lot of flack, I just think it's really, people just really don't put it into perspective. And I think the reason why they don't is because maybe with collecting stamps, collecting artwork, and baseball cards and all of that, it's not something people can relate to as much as that's something that people collect, that they collect. You know, they don't have maybe a lot of experience with it or whatever else. So, yeah, when you collect, that's what you do. But music is a little bit different because vinyl, the main thing to us is the music. Well, most people can relate to a use of music in terms of they listen to it, they've bought CDs, they like music themselves, on and on and on. So they tend to get almost like this, I don't know if attitude is the right word, but like this perception that music is about the sound waves. I understand music. I enjoy music. I've been listening to music all my life. So for you to say all this vinyl stuff and everything is needed to enjoy music, that's a bunch of crap. I've been enjoying music all my life. And so there's this huge disconnection where people don't tend to understand the tangible side of music that we as collectors tend to value just as much as the actual sound waves. And I think because of that, it makes it harder sometimes for people to see the collection aspect and again compare a sealed record to not mailing a stamp that's in a stamp collection or a baseball bat on the wall. They have a lot harder time kind of seeing that. Again, just my thoughts. You know, I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but that's where I think a lot of that comes from. So that typically is kind of my thoughts on people, what they may say about collectors. Um, the other thing too, and this is kind of something I thought about when I was pulling up, getting ready to make this video. I'm sure you guys know this book pretty well, Dust and Grooves. Really awesome book that just kind of goes through and shows a bunch of people's collections, just people talking about music, little sound bites here and there, showing some of their favorite stuff, and just kind of sharing a bunch of quick snapshots of a bunch of vinyl collectors. And it has quotes and stuff like that too. And one of the ones that always stood out to me in this book, oops, is this one right here. Within these grooves lies the complete story of my life. And I think when you talk to a serious vinyl collector, more so than someone that just listens to music, that would, be satisfied with just listening to Spotify or whatever on their cell phone as their music source, that statement really to me kind of sums it all up. Because one of the things that I tend to see, but MeanMr Mayo kind of pointed this out when he was talking about, he kind of pointed to all the stuff in the background in this video and how people might see that as being, guy being crazy and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I see just the opposite. And this is with just about anyone that collects anything. I think collection should be organized. I think there's a fine line sometimes between hoarding and collecting when you don't really build a collection, but you gather as much stuff as possible. That's hoarding to me. But with building a collection and like seeing MeanMr Mayo's background, he was making that music or that video, that to me is a sign of true emotional honesty that I think most people don't really have a chance to experience or share in life. In other words, I see all that stuff in the background in his video, or maybe like if I were watching my own video seeing this stuff here. What I tend to see is this is someone who has, MeanMr Mayo to me has basically opened up his mind, like literally taken off the top and poured his mind and his soul out into the tangible world. And it's just like, this isn't stuff that I went and got because I wanted to go get that stuff. This is what was already in me, in my mind, in my soul, that I wanted to manifest into the actual real world. So, to me, it takes a special kind of honesty to be able to do that. And to a degree that I think a lot of people don't experience or don't really do that much in life. Um, because most vinyl collectors, you don't find them going out and buying a bunch of stuff that they maybe don't really want, don't really care about. But I want everyone to think that I'm cool. I want everyone to think I'm a certain way. So I'm going to buy this music and show this music and talk about it, even though I don't really like it. But hopefully they'll think I'm cool. I don't think most collectors, you don't experience that. They go get something that they want to collect or want to have because it really is a reflection of who they are, and there's a hard honesty to it that I think is really really special. And so to me, with anyone that collects anything, that's really the vibe that I get from them is I'm seeing this stuff. I want to know why. It's like, well, because I think I'm seeing you. I'm seeing within your soul right now. Help me understand why. And like to me, I get very excited about that. I connect very, very much, if you will, with people that can share something that they collect or have almost an addiction-like connection with. When we're talking about collecting. So even a good example of that is I watch a bunch of those craft tour room videos here on YouTube where I've only seen one guy that's had one that's done a tour, but it's typically all ladies that do it. And it's just these rooms they set up to do all their crafting, the stuff that they make and everything. I have no interest in crafting whatsoever, but it's unbelievable the excitement and the connection that I get with watching them do their room tours. Because again, I just see someone's passion and someone like just showing their soul, and it's a human connection thing, almost the same way I connect when I hear a Bob Marley, sharing his soul through music. It's really kind of the exact same thing. And so I definitely think that collecting is something special when it comes to that, because a lot of people uh, have not necessarily figured out a way to really manifest their soul into the real world. They keep it very hidden, or they they try to get you to believe what they want you to believe about them because they are trying to manipulate it through conversation, or I don't want to show you this, but I want to, show you this much so you'll think of me this way. And, a lot of control in that aspect. But there's very few things where people are just like, blah, here it is. I can't do anything about it. Yes, there's a Laura Branigan record. I'm sorry. I love her. I can't help it. Just like the pure truth coming out. And so that's what I think, again, when I bump into collectors, and let's kind of keep it on topic of vinyl record collectors. If I'm watching your guys' videos and I'm seeing that stuff in the background, seeing the records you're showing, hearing the crazy obsessive nature of this and that, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing your soul. I don't see a mess. I don't see someone that might have an issue, or someone being mental or whatever. You had the bravery and the courage to manifest your soul into the tangible world, and I think that's freaking awesome. You know, so I even remember one time, I'll never forget this. I went on a few dates with this girl one time. This was a while back, and 3 or 4 times we had come over to my place. And the first time she came over, she saw my record collection and just kind of went, "Whoa, that's a lot of music," and blah blah. But the next 3 or 4 times, had never said, even that first time really, didn't say anything about it. And I thought really after that fourth or fifth date, I was like, no way, done, can't do it. It's like if you can walk into somebody's world and see themselves being that just extreme in terms of being dumped out in front of you, and you have no desire to go, whoa, this is major. I need to understand this. Share this with me because you just poured your soul out. To me, I just felt like she walked right by my soul. She just went right past it, and it's like, okay, no, this isn't gonna work. I like the idea of thinking that if well, may I take that back? I'll go a different direction. Um, I'll say that's something that I really like to experience with people. I'll just leave it at that. I think it's really cool when someone can put their soul out like that. And it can be whatever it is. Maybe you're really into unicorns, and I walk into your house for the first time, and you got unicorns. Everything's all over the place. Unicorn throws, unicorn dolls, unicorn pillows. I'm not gonna say freak. I'm gonna go, whoa, what? Tell me about this unicorn thing. It's like, where is that coming from out of you? Because I just walked into the middle of your soul here. I need to understand. So, anyway, again, I'm kind of rambling all over the place, but that's kind of my thoughts on how I personally view collectors, and I think also kind of how we tend to get viewed. Um, what else can I say about it? Well, I mean, the documentary itself again, just make sure you go check it out and watch it because it is really good, very interesting, really interesting kind of stuff, and I don't know. I guess that's all I have to say about it. So, yeah. Let me know what you think, VC. Make sure you go check out MeanMr Mayo's video, and we will talk to you soon.